So I started playing soccer at a really young age. I started playing soccer about first, second grade, and we kind of just built it up to where we were playing every day, practicing every day. Later on in high school, broke some school records. I loved playing competitively. After a while, my parents really thought about college, what I was going to do for college, and they thought maybe a soccer scholarship was something I can pursue. And so I started working really hard. I would practice. Even when I didn't have practice, I'd practice at home. My parents would make me. My dad would drill it into us, making sure we were having a ball at our feet, to making sure we were running, doing whatever drills we possibly can, just to practice, get that extra practice in, and work to get that soccer scholarship that I wanted for college. And one day, I got notified that a coach at Fresno Pacific University was interested in me. I was so excited. I ended up getting the scholarship I wanted, started playing, loved it. Everyone was so proud of me. My parents were so proud. My community here in Carruthers was so proud of me for making it that far. And my junior year of college, I made some bad choices, and I actually got removed from the soccer team at FPU. Later found out that what they did wasn't right, but during that time, I broke down. I was so scared to tell my family, especially my parents, who just worked so hard to provide me with those extra soccer lessons and such to get to where I was at playing soccer at Fresno Pacific. And I remember getting the news and sitting in my car, and I was crying. I was distraught. I was thinking to myself, soccer is my life. What am I going to do without soccer? I remember thinking how everyone was just going to be so disappointed in me. Mind you, this was right before Thanksgiving. So this is right before I get to see all my family and have to share that terrible news with them. And so I got in my car, and I picked up my phone and I Googled easy, painless ways to kill yourself. I was really thinking about taking my life that day, all because of soccer, because I thought that was my life. I considered myself a Christian then. At Fresno Pacific, we had a lot of Bible classes. We studied the Bible. I didn't really do a lot of communicating with God, though. Didn't do a lot of praying. But when I found that news out and when I reacted the way I did, I figured I needed to pray about it. And so I went home. I started a prayer journal, actually, and I prayed and just asked God to show me what He has for my life. Because if it's not soccer, I need to know what it is. Because in my eyes, it was soccer. And so, couple weeks passed by, and I was driving to Kerman at the time to watch a Christmas program, and there was like this S shape in the road, and I collided in the back. I collided into a service truck, the back of a service truck, and everything went black. I woke up in the hospital, and I remember seeing lights above me. I remember being so sticky. I remember being so scared to move anything, to move my arms, legs, even my head, because I didn't know what was wrong, but I knew something was. And as I just slowly looked down, I saw my parents in the corner, and I asked them, what happened? What happened? And they said, Jerica, you were involved. You were in a car accident. Don't try to move. You're fine. They're taking care of you. You're fine, but just don't try to move. Stay still. And at that time, I asked my parents, I said, well, can you show me a picture of myself? Like, what do I look like? Because I can feel the stickiness. I just knew my face was covered in something, whether it was oil from the car. I didn't know. And my dad showed me a picture of my face, and it was completely cut up. I remember being so scared, and I didn't know what was going to happen next. I didn't know if I was okay. I didn't know if I was going to be able to walk. If I had no idea the extent of my injuries and what was to be. And the next thing I remember is Oh, sorry. The next thing I remember is Pastor Grant, who my grandma talked so highly about at the church at Full Gospel here in Carruthers. And he walked in and he said, "Can I pray for you?" And I said, "Yeah." And he put his hand on my shoulder right here. And I actually had a compound fracture in my shoulder, so I broke my scapula and my bone was exposed. And I told him, "You can hold my hand." And he grabbed my hand. Not sure what the hands looked like, but I guess they were pretty bad too from what Pastor Grant told me. But he prayed for me. And from that moment on, I felt a sense of peace. I was like, okay, I'm gonna be okay. We're gonna get through this. You know, during the hospital stay, I was in and out most of the time. I was getting some information from the doctors. Okay, we checked her head scans, her head CT scan, everything's okay there. We're just doing more x-rays here and there. At the end of the stay, they let my parents know that I had fractured 16 bones in my body. That was my scapula, my left hand, my right wrist, multiple ribs, my back, my left foot. I mean, my body was pretty mangled, was pretty torn up. I was laying there in the bed and it was about time to go home, and we worked with a lot of physical therapists about what that was going to look like, and they decided that I needed to be in a wheelchair because my back was not strong enough to support me walking. Not only that, my legs and arms couldn't withhold any crutches or anything like that. So they walked me out in a wheelchair, and what my parents did, and I remember my mom asking me, what's the first thing you want to do when you get home? Because I spent about a little over a week in the hospital. They said, "What's the first thing you want to do when you get home?" And I told her I want to go to church. Told her that I want to know more about this God. I want to know more about why I'm here on this earth, what He has planned for me, because whatever it is good. It is so good, and I'm here for a reason. I had so many doctors, so many nurses in the hospital just tell me how lucky I am. I had a firefighter at the scene tell my mom the same thing, telling her, "I don't know how your daughter is alive, but she is." And I just remember thinking that it's a miracle, and I know that this wasn't just any kind of miracle. This miracle was meant for a reason. And my parents didn't know that I had those thoughts about killing myself 2 weeks before that. They had no idea. And so as I got home, we went out back to go look at my car. My parents actually had my car at their house in the back, and they wheeled me out there, and I looked at my car for the first time because I don't remember anything from the accident, from the scene. And I sat there and I just cried, and I told them, I told them what I was thinking about before. I told them that I was thinking about killing myself, and I told them that I was so incredibly happy, even if I was in a wheelchair, just to be sitting here with all of them, sitting there with all of them that day. And that I was so happy I was on this earth because there's so much more to my life than soccer. There was my family. There were people who cared about me who showed up at the hospital that day. There's my nephews, and there's God. And I was just so incredibly blessed and overwhelmed that day, just completely overwhelmed in the most magical way possible, as it seems so silly being so mangled up. So as time went by, that Sunday coming up, we went to church, and like I said before, I didn't really have a relationship with God. I really didn't know what I was getting into. Going to church wasn't something I had did, and it actually wasn't something my parents did either. And my grandma was the one who really went to church, and she was the one who would tell us, to go every Sunday. And of course, we had some kind of excuse to not go. And So we went that Sunday, my whole family, my mom, my dad, and if you knew my dad back then, he was never inside, never hanging out inside, relaxing. He was outside working on a derby car or doing some kind of hard work. Um, my dad had a mouth of a sailor. um, Probably every other word out of his mouth was a curse word. He was Mr. Rough, and he was, you just wouldn't see him in a church. And he was the one who wheeled me in church that day in my wheelchair. He helped me in the pews, and he held my hand as we worshiped and as I sang. Not really knowing what I was singing, but reading the words on the screen above the worship team, and we praised God. We worshiped Him, and there was a song I remember came on. And it goes a little something like this. It goes, "I surrender," and then the next verse says that I want to know more about you, God. I want to know more about God, and that song just hit me so hard, and I cried and I surrendered. I gave it all to God. And I said, I want to know more about you. I'm surrendering everything else. I'm surrendering what I want for my life. And I want to know more about God and what God wants for my life. And from that day forward, I just had so many people from Full Gospel come lay their hands on me and come pray for me. And they knew me as the girl who got in the car accident. But they had all the faith in the world that God was going to heal me right up. And I had plenty of hands laid on me that day. And I left that day just feeling brand new. And I could see it in my parents' eyes too. They felt that same way. So next Sunday comes around, and with the power of prayer, I walked in church that Sunday in a walker. I wasn't in a wheelchair, I was in a walker. And this walker was a little different because my left hand and right wrist were both broken. It had an area where I could put my elbows and use that to walk in. And I walked into church in a walker, and again, worshiped God, listened to the message, and had more hands on me, praying for healing over my body. And the next week I walk in and I'm on crutches. I have my cast off my hands and my wrists, and I'm on crutches, and I'm walking down, going to sit in the pews. And again, more hands on me, more people praying for me. The next time I walked in and I'm free of the crutches and I just have a boot on my foot, everyone was just amazed. Everyone could not believe how fast this girl with 16 broken bones was healing. I mean, it was week by week by week, and it was just the power of prayer. I fully believe in the power of prayer. I was healed, and I was healing, and I could feel it in me. I can feel just mentally, I was a different person, and physically, I was just so much stronger. And the next few days, I just came, no boot, no more casts, no more anything. I was good to go, and I was healed. And so as time goes by, I remember thinking to myself, like, wow, like God healed my body. God healed those broken bones. He put those bones back together. He healed me. He made me stronger than I was before. And I remember thinking to myself, my freshman year of college, I got diagnosed with a sleeping disorder. And it held me back from a lot of things. I wasn't doing well in classes. I couldn't stay awake for a movie. I would fall asleep in a movie. I just felt drained. My body just didn't feel right. And when I got diagnosed, I had to take a sleep test. And I had to sleep overnight. They monitored my sleeping, and the next morning I had to take 5 naps. Each nap was 30 minutes long, and there was 2 hours in between each nap. And with getting the full 8 hours of sleep, getting my full REM sleep, dreaming and everything, rested really well. The next morning I fell flat asleep with each nap within 2 minutes. So they diagnosed me with idiopathic hypersomnia, it's called. And it's basically just excessive daytime sleepiness. So it was like my mind was telling my body I did not get enough rest, and that's how my body was reacting. And I just asked for more prayers. I said, if God can heal those broken bones, then God could heal this sleeping disorder, and I don't have to take medication for it. And so I went up to Pastor Grant that next morning and I told him, I was like, I think God healed my sleeping disorder. I stopped taking my medication. I said, I think God healed him. And he looked at me and he goes, no, God healed your sleeping disorder. I looked at him and I was like, yeah, no, I know God healed my sleeping disorder. And as funny as it sounds, I got a notice in the mail from the DMV saying, you're not taking your medications. Your doctor told me you're not going back. You're not getting them refilled. And they said I need to go back and get another test done. And I said, okay. And I went to the doctor and they're telling me, what's going on? Why aren't you taking your medication? You're not allowed to drive. Specific instructions from the DMV unless my doctor signs off that I'm taking my medications, that I'm okay to do that. And I told them God healed me. And they looked at me like I was silly. They looked at me like I was crazy. And I said, I fully believe God healed me. And I no longer have a sleeping disorder. And I remember her telling me, that's not how things work. This sleeping disorder doesn't just go away. It's something that you're going to live with forever. And I told them that I needed to get another test done so that they can sign off for the DMV so I can drive again, because I know God healed me. And so that night, or they called me in for the sleep study test. And that night, one of the nurses, she asked me, oh, honey, what are you doing in here? Is asking me about my sleeping disorder and what happened. And I told her, I said, well, God healed me, so I'm just here to prove it. And she pulled out her necklace that had a cross on it and said, I believe you. She said, I believe you. And she said, we'll get this done and when we'll prove it. And I said, okay. And I just felt so much peace in that room, so much peace that I slept so well that night in that bed, and woke up the next morning to take my 5 naps. And I felt great. I felt refreshed. I didn't need to nap. I laid down. I tried. I remember closing my eyes trying to nap, and I couldn't. I could not fall asleep. And I knew I was different. I knew I was healed. And as when my doctor got the results, she couldn't believe it. And she said that they can't diagnose me with this sleeping disorder anymore, and that I'm good to go. And I'm overwhelmed by how God can heal. How when you ask, when you pray, when you have hands laid on you, God heals you. And God healed me from my body to my mind, and He healed me so much more. I mean, He healed my whole family. Not necessarily physically the way I needed to get healed, but their hearts, spiritually. He healed them too. I look back on how they were, again, amazing people, but I look at them now and I just see the transformation in their lives. I see my dad on his knees outside praying. I see my dad. I see his heart so soft and so full. I see my dad being an example to his friends that he grew up with, being an example of Jesus to them. I see my dad just a brand new person, honestly. I just see him so loving and so caring to anybody, anything. I see him so selfless. I see him wanting to help out at the church, wanting to do those things, putting other people before himself, before his derby cars, before his work outside. My mom, granted, everyone worries, but my mom just devotes herself to her Bible and her devotionals and her just easing that worry from her, and finding a different way to handle those things. And it's by praying. I see my mom praying. I see my parents is just something just so different now, in such a wonderful, beautiful way. I see them not being hard on us to make our beds in the morning, but being hard on us on getting to church on time. Those small little things now. I just see just a traumatic or dramatic transformation in their lives. And my accident was nothing short of fun. Not fun at all. I mean, nothing short of pleasant, I guess you can say. Obviously, it brought my family through a lot of tears, a lot of heartache, a lot of worry, but it also brought them to church, and it brought them to be the people they are today. And they are a part of this church. My dad is on the board at this church. My family goes every Sunday. I mean, they just believe so much, and they have this faith that they just hold on to and that they run with whenever they are faced with any kind of problems, any trials or tribulations. And it amazes me how something like a car accident, something so what people can think could be just so devastating, just be so good. And I think God does that. God turns those things that can be so hard on people, so devastating, and turn them into good. And that's exactly what He did, not just for me, but my entire family. And I mean, I've seen miracles through it. I've seen miracles through me. I've seen miracles through like I said, my family too. So I, to this day, just praise God. And whenever I'm faced with anything, I just remember that day. And I remember the way I felt, after going home that day. I remember after just being so thankful to be alive and just being so happy and feeling so untouchable. Like nothing can take the smile off my face. Nothing can bring me down anymore. And whenever I'm in those seasons and whenever I'm feeling that way, I just remind myself of that time and remind myself of what God can do and what God has done in my life. And I hold on to that and I run with it. So, yeah. Thank you for letting me share my story today.